Hey everyone! Before we jump into today's video, I just want to take a moment to say a huge thank you for all the endless support. Because of you, the channel has officially reached over 4,000 watch hours. That milestone has unlocked some exciting new features: Super Chat, which lets you send highlighted messages during live streams; Super Thanks, where you can show extra support on regular videos with a special highlighted comment; and Super Stickers, which are fun, animated stickers you can send during live chats to stand out and keep things lively. Plus, channel memberships are now available, giving you access to exclusive perks. And who knows, I might even do a members-only live stream sometime soon. I'm incredibly grateful for every like, comment, and view, and I'm so excited for what's ahead. Now, let's get into the video. When you think of the band America, what comes to mind? Is it the iconic song, Horse with No Name? Or if you're more of a seasoned music fanatic, perhaps the unequivocal Sister Goldenhair? An 80s buff only knowing You Can Do Magic? Or maybe you haven't heard of the band at all, but you are eager to learn more. In which case, I thank you for stopping by. But I'm here to say that no matter what you're thinking, one thing's for certain: America is far more than a handful of radio staples frozen in time. Behind those familiar melodies is a band with a rich, evolving history, one that spans decades, genres, and generations of listeners. Their music captures a unique blend of sun-drenched folk, thoughtful lyricism, and quiet emotional depth, proving that America isn't just a band you recognize, but one worth rediscovering. Formed in London in 1970 by singer-songwriters Dewey Bunnell, Gerry Beckley, and Dan Peek, the band America quickly rose to international fame with hits like Horse with No Name and Sister Goldenhair, blending soft rock and folk influences into a sound that helped define early 1970s American rock and continues to resonate decades later. To understand how this trio of high school friends evolved from playing pubs in London to crafting some of rock's most enduring songs, we'll explore their formation and early years, the creative forces behind their biggest hits, and the lasting legacy they've left on music history. America's story starts far from, well, America. The band formed in London in 1970 when three American teens, Dewey Bunnell, Gerry Beckley, and Dan Peek, met at the American Community School. All of their dads were in the US Air Force, so they bonded over music, guitars, and probably being far from home. They formed the band because they loved songwriting and harmony, and because playing music beats doing homework any day. Dewey brought the dreamy, desert-style lyrics, even though he wrote about deserts before seeing one. Gerry was the melodic hitmaker with a knack for sweet hooks, and Dan added strong vocals and spiritual themes that grounded the band. They started playing small gigs in pubs, slowly building confidence and a sound that mixed folk, pop, and soft rock. Then came their big break. Suddenly, they weren't just three friends with guitars, they were a band on the radio everywhere. And their rise was fast, sunny, and impossible to ignore. America released a lot of songs over the years, but a handful really made waves, especially on the Billboard Hot 100. A Horse with No Name galloped all the way to #1, proving you don't need a name to win a race. Sister Goldenhair also hit #1, while Ventura Highway cruised to #8 with Sunglasses Firmly On. Other big chart hits included one of my favorite songs ever, Tin Man, that reached #4, Lonely People, #5, I Need You, #9, and Daisy Jane, #20. Later on, You Can Do Magic worked its spell at #8, reminding people that the band still had it. Even songs that didn't crack the top 10, such as The Border and Woman Tonight, kept them on the charts and on the radio. Their catalog is packed with gentle grooves, thoughtful lyrics, and melodies that feel like a warm breeze, the kind of songs you don't realize you know until you're singing along in the car. By the end of the 1970s, America had already proven they were more than a one-hit wonder or a soft rock footnote. But change was coming, new sounds, new styles, and a brand new decade. As the 1980s rolled in with synths, slick production, and a little bit of magic, America was about to evolve once again. And that's where the story gets even more interesting.
Hi guys, first welcome along to Flashes.
How you doing?
And to Australia, of course. How come such a short visit?
Well, we're just kind of testing the water, you know. We've been thinking about coming here, or hoping to come here for 5 years since the first album, and we got a lot of feedback from that album, and it's really been kind of in the works, and we really wanted to come and see all you lovely people, and we finally got the opportunity.
It's a reconnaissance mission.
Yeah.
We're just checking.
The gold record's quite impressive. Were you aware that you would earn so many over here?
No,
It was a surprise, total surprise.
We had no idea this was going to happen.
I had no idea we had any gold records here.
Yeah, we didn't even know that we were, we figured we were going to come in and start to crack the market a little bit. We came here and saw this.
He's hawking his guitar, I can tell. Let me see. Dewey Bunnell, Gerry Beckley, and it was 8, 9, 10 years ago when we ran into one another?
In London, we did the in-concert series at the Rainbow Theatre.
What was the Rainbow Theatre originally? Do you remember?
Gosh, I don't know. It became a big rock venue, though.
Everybody performed there. I'm facing backwards, and that's kind of weird. We were talking about England influence and so forth. You're Americans. I think most people know the story. You were, what they call them, Army brats?
Air Force, please. Air Force.
I'm in trouble already. I changed it from Ventura Highway to Freeway. That just comes out naturally here because the freeway's out the corner here. What was your influence? Was it English music or American music?
For me, it was mostly English. The Beatles were the biggest influence, and the Hollies, Yardbirds, groups like that.
And you agree?
Yeah, I surfed music when I first lived here in the States, but being the Air Force thing, we did move around.
You mentioned the Beatles. Was that record the one that was made at the Abbey Road Studios?
I think almost every Beatle record was made at Abbey Road. Magic was recorded at the same studio.
Holy mackerel. Was there anything mysterious about working there or strange?
The equipment was still real old. It wasn't, but it's a big, huge, cavernous place, and there was, you felt ghosts, so forth. It was nice.
I would think it would have sort of an interesting feel having been in that spot. Why did it take you so long to begin to produce your own records?
Well, we did. Many years ago, we produced our own records, and then we got together with George Martin, and for 8 or 9 years, he produced us, so now we're back to doing it again.
Are you happy with that arrangement? You can take all the blame or the glory?
Yeah, it's good for us. It gets us more active because we were sitting back in our easy chair with George, and it's so, he took care so well of us that we need to get back into it a little more.
Mr. Martin, for the benefit of the uninitiated, is one of the world's best-known record producers amongst the Beatles, amongst them. Is he?
Yeah,
Really?
he's a real nice guy.
I hear nice things about him. He must be a great gentleman.
As the 1980s kicked the door open with synths blaring and fashion making some bold choices, America entered the decade in a very different place from where it started. The biggest change was that Dan Peek had officially left the band in 1977, and while the split wasn't tabloid-level messy, it definitely came with tension. Dan wanted to focus on his faith and pursue Christian music, while Dewey Bunnell and Gerry Beckley wanted to keep the band rolling forward. Translation: creative differences, the most polite way musicians say, "we don't agree anymore." Dan went on to release several Christian albums in the 80s and found success in that world, though he mostly stepped away from the mainstream spotlight. Meanwhile, Dewey and Gerry pressed on as a duo, determined not to let America quietly drift off into classic rock-only territory. The early 80s weren't easy. Their albums Alibi and View from the Ground didn't exactly light the charts on fire, and for a moment, it looked like America might become one of those bands you only hear on throwback radio stations between car commercials. But then came producer Russ Ballard, who basically said, "What if we make this sound like the 80s, but still you?" The result was You Can Do Magic in 1982, a comeback hit that climbed the Billboard Hot 100 and introduced America to a whole new audience, many of whom had no idea these guys were the same band that sang about horses with no names. Dewey leaned into his thoughtful, slightly mysterious songwriting, while Gerry continued being the melody wizard, crafting hooks that got stuck in your head, whether you wanted them there or not. Behind the scenes, the band was calmer than in their earlier years, with less ego, fewer clashes, and more focus on surviving an industry that was changing fast. No wild public feuds, no dramatic reunion stunts, just two musicians figuring out how to stay relevant, while MTV played bands half their age. Through steady touring, loyal fans, and the occasional magical chart appearance, America proved in the 1980s that they weren't just a nostalgia act. They were adaptable, resilient, and still very much alive, quietly riding into a new era with keyboards instead of acoustics, and somehow making it work. Real quick, if you're enjoying this video and want to support the channel in a bigger way, check out my Patreon. It's a great way to help me keep creating. You'll get some cool extras like behind the scenes stuff, early access, and more. Links in the description if you want to take a look. Thanks so much. By the mid-1980s, America had officially settled into its new identity as a duo, and while the spotlight wasn't as blinding as it had been in the early 70s, Dewey Bunnell and Gerry Beckley were far from done. This era was less about chasing massive chart hits and more about survival, reinvention, and refusing to quietly pack it in. After the success of You Can Do Magic, the band followed up with The Border, 1983, which also cracked the Billboard Hot 100. It wasn't a blockbuster, but it proved their comeback wasn't a total fluke. Albums like Perspective, 1984, leaned even harder into the polished 80s sound with synths, glossy production, and all because if the decade demanded keyboards, America was willing to comply. Shoulder pads are not required, but highly encouraged. As the late 80s rolled on, the music industry started shifting again, and suddenly the clean, shiny 80s sound wasn't cool anymore. America felt this shift almost immediately. Albums like In Concert, 1985, and Encore, More Greatest Hits, 1986, leaned into nostalgia, reminding fans that yes, these were the guys behind those songs you already knew by heart. Radio wasn't calling as much, but concert venues still were, and America discovered something important. Their fan base was loyal, very loyal. People kept showing up, singing every word, and bringing their kids along, which is a strong sign you've officially become timeless instead of trendy.
High with a #1 hit single and an album in the top 10 called Hearts. Today, former America member Dan Peek talks about his change of heart since those days.
And God said, okay, I'll make you successful. I'll make you incredibly successful and incredibly famous beyond what you're even asking for. And literally within 9 months, this all happened. So then, as you said, I didn't live up to my end of the bargain.
Why?
Because I was afraid that, well, for one thing, I wasn't strong enough spiritually. I was really a mediocre Christian, just kind of floating along. And the other thing was I was afraid that if I came out for God, this religious fanatic type of a guy, I would lose all the success. Now, don't, ask me why I didn't think, well, if God could, give it to me, he surely could have allowed me to keep it and proclaim him. But there was where my faith broke down.
Meanwhile, Dan Peek was living a very different life. Throughout the late 80s and into the 90s, he remained focused on Christian music, releasing albums, speaking publicly about his faith, and staying mostly out of the mainstream rock world. While rumors of reunions floated around, as they always do, nothing serious came together during this time. There wasn't ongoing drama, just distance, and 3 people who had shared a huge chapter of life and then went in separate directions. Dewey and Gerry occasionally acknowledged Dan in interviews, keeping things respectful and low-key, which, in rock history terms, is practically miraculous. Heading into the 1990s, America embraced its role as seasoned veterans. Grunge was rising, flannel was in, and nobody was asking for soft rock harmonies on the radio, but that didn't stop them. They toured relentlessly, playing festivals and became staples on the classic rock circuit. Instead of fighting the label, they owned it. The band's music found new life through movie soundtracks, TV shows, and oldies radio, introducing their songs to listeners who weren't even born when A Horse with No Name first topped the charts. By the time the 90s were fully underway, America had proven something rare. You don't need to dominate the charts to stay relevant. Sometimes, lasting power, good songs, and a crowd that keeps coming back are the real magic. And yes, they could still do it. By the mid to late 1990s, America had fully embraced its role as road warriors and studio veterans, and honestly, they seemed pretty comfortable there. Dewey Bunnell and Gerry Beckley kept touring steadily, playing theaters, festivals, and casinos, places where audiences actually listen and sing along instead of just holding up lighters because it looks cool. In 1994, they released Hourglass, an album that surprised fans by sounding both modern and unmistakably America. It wasn't chasing trends, but it wasn't stuck in the past either. Then came Human Nature in 1998, which leaned into organic sounds and thoughtful songwriting, proving they still care deeply about making new music, not just replaying the hits. Around this time, the band also benefited from a wave of renewed interest in classic rock, thanks to CD reissues, radio specials, and movie soundtracks. Tragedy struck in 2011 when former member Dan Peek passed away, officially closing the door on any full original lineup reunion, but his legacy remained deeply tied to the band's story. Moving into the 2000s and beyond, America continued releasing music, including Here and Now 2007, which featured guest appearances from artists like Ryan Adams, and Lost and Found 2015, a collection of previously unreleased tracks that felt like a gift to longtime fans. Today, America is still active, still touring, and still proving that good songs age a lot better than most fashion trends from the 70s and 80s. In the end, America's story isn't just about chart positions or radio hits, it's about longevity. From high school friends playing music in London, to dominating the 70s airwaves, adapting through the synth-heavy 80s, surviving industry shifts in the 90s, and continuing to perform decades later, the band has quietly built one of the most durable legacies in rock history. Their music remains warm, reflective, and deeply human, the kind that sneaks up on you when you least expect it. So, whether you came for the horse, the magic, the golden hair, or pure curiosity, one thing becomes clear by the final note. America was never just a moment in time. It was, and still is, a journey worth taking. Thank you so much for watching. This video took a lot of time to make, so I would really appreciate it if you would leave a like and subscribe. And please make sure to turn on that notification bell so you don't miss a future upload. More quality videos like this one coming soon. Once again, I really appreciate you, and I'll see you next time.